sense, doing equals giving. Ben, we're glad to see Ben here. Ben Yeger is from the Combatants for Peace, members of the Israeli Defense Force who have seen the hell that war can be. And he's come to indicate to us something of his own experiences and to reflect on the implications of those experiences. Ben, we're delighted that you could come, and we're very grateful to you.
Thank you, John, and thank you all for your attention. I think I'm here because of Mary. Where's Mary? Yes, Mary came to hear my friend Yusli and myself speak to a group that she was in Jerusalem. So I just want to first of all say that I would normally be sharing a platform with a Palestinian right next to me. That's how we work. That's what we do. We share platforms together. And we come to do that through a long period of building that ability and trust to work together with Palestinians. So Combatants for Peace, which isn't this website address, it's www.cfpeace.com. That's okay. I just give it to you.
Try.
And in a second, I'm going to show you a bit of a film about Combatants for Peace, which will give you quite a lot of a feel of what we do. But I'm going to give you a bit of a short explanation. We'll see the film, and then I'll speak about my personal story. I can see you worried that I wasn't going to do that. Combatants for Peace was formed in 2005 by a crazy group of Israeli ex-combatants who had signed a petition to refuse to serve the occupied territories any longer, and a group of Palestinian ex-fighters who all spent time in Israeli prisons. And the first very tentative meeting in Bejala, for those who know the area, was one of a lot of mistrust and fear, in which they met, and afterwards when they asked each other, what did you think about when we were come to the meeting? So the Israelis said that they were sure, they were checking their cars to see if there was any explosives underneath them, and the Palestinians were completely sure that the Israelis were secret police. Which turned out, of course, not to be true, either of those things. So in 2005, there was a monthly meeting between these two groups of people, trying to build the trust and trying to strategize together about how we might be effective in contributing to stopping the occupation and bringing about a viable peace between the two people. And because of the unique position of people being ex-combatants, and for those who know the region and know the conflict of it, it felt like an important statement to make that people who were involved in direct action as soldiers or as freedom fighters or whatever other name you want to give to that, would have a voice that would be listened to in those societies. From that year onwards until now, we have grown as an organisation, and now we have 5 regional groups in which we have 30 people divided pretty equally between the two sides, which we have regular meetings, which we strategize through our work. And we don't call it dialogue work, it is building our resilience and our sustainable effect together to be able to take action in non-violent, binational ways against the occupation. So our clear statement is that all of our work is towards ending the occupation, hence we escape the tag of normalization through that reality. We currently have, as I said, about 150 active members who are working together. We have thousands of supporters around Israel and Palestine. We have obviously Facebook pages on both sides, and we specifically do tours to the West Bank, which we give education to particularly Israeli public, to politicians, to opinion shapers, and also to international groups who come to us. We do also events for young people in those societies. We do what we call in-house meetings, which are opportunities like this one, where we would share a platform to tell our personal story and the story of the movement, and then obviously talk to the audiences that we meet. That sometimes happens self-organised, and it sometimes happens when we're requested or invited, both within each society but also internationally, like we're doing also have an activist theatre group which uses theatre of the oppressed, for those who know what that is, and I'll be happy to explain that later, to both strategize internally within our group, but also to use it as a protest method in the West Bank on checkpoints, and also in Israel, and also internationally because of my job. My job is to be the UK representative, and although I am an Israeli ex-combatant, I live here in England, I live in South Devon. And I do go to Israel and Palestine a lot, and do work there as well. We're built up of a majority of volunteers, so we are a grassroots voluntary organisation, so nobody gets paid to do the work we do. We have an office manager. We're working now trying to fundraise for a general manager to take us to the next step in terms of our professionalism and our sustainability. But essentially, all of our activists do this on a voluntary basis, and it's a lot of work. There's a lot to combat against. So I suggest that we watch the film, and then I'll speak about my personal story. So if we can have the film, that'd be great. Can I do it? Yeah, just play it there. That's it. Is the internet going to work? That's the question. Advertising. You can talk about what you said as it is. Just skip. Can you skip the ad?
Yeah.
That's great. I hear that. Do you have sound? Can we have some sound?
He's just putting an extra lead in.
Oh, okay.
Full screen.
Great. Can we make it full screen as well, please?
ציונות לא הייתה איזה קונספט תיאורטי, איזה תנועה לאומית שהתעוררה משום מקום. בשביל אבא שלי, הציונות הצילה את ההורים שלו. חד וחלק. גדלתי עם זה שבזכות זה שסבא שלי היה משוגע, היה ציוני, עלה לארץ, אז המתפונים, הוא לא נרצח בשואה.
28/10/2003 كانت مجموعة من الجيش الإسرائيلي لابسين مستعربين لابسين لبس السيارة دخلت على المخيم وكان جوزي موجود في مدخل المخيم قتل كان رد طبيعي جدا عنا أو ردة فعل طبيعية جدا إنه إحنا لازم ننتقم.
אני גדלתי בבית שמאלני, קבלה של האחר. מצד שני גם גדלתי בבית הייתה תחושה של שליחות, שאנחנו פה ואתה צריך לתרום של המדינה. לתרום למדינה לפני 18 זה להתגייס לצבא, להתגייס לקרבי.
لا يوجد مكان آمن لك كطفل فلسطيني وذلك سهل أنك تجد حالك بحركة مقاومة ضد هذا الاحتلال. فأنا أمضيت 7 سنوات من عمري في سجون الاحتلال منذ كان عمري 17 عام.
ربحت أمنون نقيب أمنون حضري بتصل الإسرائيلي لازم خرج العقلية نحن منشطين لازم خرج البلدين شلانو نحن منشطين وخلي كل بزوجي أفكر منكم אבל הכי קשה לגשר בין האנשים, רוצים להוכיח ששותף לצלום תמיד, אתה רק צריך לחדד.
We have the responsibility to say, no, we are stopping the violence.
שבו אני אומר לעצמי, מה אתה עושה? איך אתה יכול להמשיך לעשות את זה ולספר לעצמך את אותו סיפור שהסבא שלך סיפר לאבא שלך ואבא שלך מספר לך, ואז אני מחליט שאני מסרב לשרת בשטחים. אני לא משתתף בשום פעולה בשטחים, כי אי אפשר לעשות אותה בצורה הומנית או טובה.
Finding voiceover talent doesn't have to be about agents, hefty fees, and booking stereotypes. Imagine kicking back and listening to auditions by 20, 30, or 40 great voices reading a sample.
We're being watched.
אנחנו לא נסכים עם החסימות בין שוק המפוקרים ובכלל בין החסימות שמפחות את שוק המפוקרים לבית כלא. ברור לכולם שאנחנו לא רוצים לעשות שום דבר בעלים, אבל הצבא לא רוצה שאנחנו ניפגש שיראו שגם בישראל וגם במותקרת ובשוק ובשטחים הכבושים, שיש ישראלים ופלסטינים שעובדים ביחד להפסיק את הכיבוש ואת החסימות.
That's our office.
בשיר הראשונים הפלסטינים היה לי מאוד חשוב לסיפור שלנו. שמעתי את הסיפורים המדמיינים. הבנתי שאם אני מוכן לבוא, לגשת לאותם אנשים, לנסות לפתור את הסכסוך ואת כל העבר שיש לנו, והם גם מוכנים לעשות את הצעד הזה לקראתי, אז יש לי משהו מאוד מיוחד.
يعني كدولة كانوا بالجيش الإسرائيلي ويطبقوا علينا ويوصفونا إلا بدون يعني يوصفونا وبدون يطبقوا أولادنا. من وين صارت هذه نقطة التحول؟
פיגועי התאבדות, אבל בעד ירי על. אלא זה באמת אנשים שתופסים את האלימות כמונו כדבר שרק מביא עוד אלימות. ואי אפשר לראות את האלימות כדבר אחר. זאת אומרת, כי ברגע שמתחילות ההצדקות, מתחילה גם האלימות. ואנחנו כולנו חווינו את זה על בשרנו.
في وقت الانتقام وعدم التفكير في الانتقام هو الذي ينقذ أطفال آخرين سواء فلسطينيين أو إسرائيليين.
I haven't watched that for a while. It still moves me actually to see that I belong to that group of people. So how do I come to be part of this? I was born here in England, and when I was 8, my parents moved to Israel, only to separate afterwards, and I found myself landing into Israel in 1973. And for those who know or don't know, a war broke out in Israel in 1973, called the Yom Kippur War. And at that time, I arrived on the kibbutz, and where my father was living, and I experienced blackouts and, days in bomb shelters, and a real kind of sense of panic. There was a war going on there. Immediately, I was told what was going on, that there was a war with the Arabs, and that they are our enemy, and that we are in danger of them. So, if you can imagine at the age of 8, imagine the children that you have or know having that message given to them from the beginning that there's an enemy. And, I grew up on a kibbutz. For those who don't know what a kibbutz is, it's an agricultural community, kind of based upon the communism idea and socialism and humanism. But in Israel, that's a bit tricky because it's also the breeding ground for the officers of Israel. And that's what I was brought up to believe, that I had to serve my country and to do the best I can, and if I was fit, I would serve in a combat unit. And when it came to 1983, when I turned 18, I did go and volunteer to become a paratrooper. And I just missed the actual war, but I did go into Lebanon as an occupier, because the Israeli army had invaded Lebanon in 1982, and with the express intention originally of, well, that's what they said, of just pushing the Palestinian terrorists back 30 kilometers and leaving. Israel stayed in Lebanon for 9 years, and it was 10 years until it fully withdrew. And I was in the army when the occupation started, and many of us had no idea what we were doing there. More importantly, we went in not knowing what we were actually fighting for. We knew nothing of Palestinians. It wasn't part of what we were educated for. We were told there is an enemy, and they are the Arabs. Of course, Sharon had a different. Ariel Sharon, for those who don't know, was the Minister of Defense then, and he led this war as pretty much a personal crusade against Arafat. And that's my opinion. I can't prove that as fact, but I think it's an opinion that many Israelis who I work with and Palestinians would agree with. So I found myself in Lebanon quite a lot of the time, and in this time, more and more information came through to make me realise that something wasn't quite right. And I'll recall one bit of events there, which was at the end of my time in the army, which was about 8 months before I was due to be released, I found myself going into a Lebanese village in which they were suspected to have many Palestinian, what was then called terrorists. And it was also part of the Israeli strategy to withdraw, and as we were withdrawing, to flush out the last remaining terrorists in these villages. So we came in at the break of dawn into this village, and the procedure was to extract all the young men and older men into the central school, to check their IDs, and then anybody who was deemed suspicious or had been marked by the secret police, they would then be taken to further investigation. There was one guy who was identified as one of these people, and I, by then, was pretty shook by what we were doing, although I'd been in the army by now for over 2 years. And I was given the task of guarding this man who we'd seen as suspicious. And I apologise for those who had watched my TED talk. This is a repetition of what I tell there. I was faced with sitting opposite this man with my gun, and he was only about 2.5 meters away from me, and my officer said to me, if this man moves in any way which was dangerous, shoot him from 2.5 meters. That's less than the distance between me and you. And keep in mind that this man had his head covered, he was cuffed with his hands and he was cuffed with his legs. He had soiled himself and he was shaking with fear because he had a gun pointing at him. And I distinctly remember then, and certainly as I tell this story over and over again, that I suddenly realised what was going on somewhere inside me. I realised that for me to in any way consider taking on these orders, I'd have to dehumanise this person. And at the same time, I'd have to dehumanise myself. Because to actually act upon that order would be completely inhumane. I would have no justification in regards to security or serving my country or serving a purpose of any sort. It would just be murder. And so the following day I went to my officer and I said, look, I can't do this anymore. I need you to do what you like. You can put me in prison, you can do it. I'm not doing this anymore. Luckily he was forgiving and I didn't have to shoot this man, which was, I was lucky. And he did. He put me in an office job for the last 8 months of my service. I left Israel as soon as I finished my service. I came back to England to study to be an actor and to escape all of it, to be honest. I didn't want to think about it, I didn't want to see it, I didn't want to talk about it, I didn't want to deal with it. I would return to Israel quite a lot and simply not deal with any of it. But there was a niggle all the way through, really. A niggle that I couldn't let go of, that something was wrong. The feelings I had when I was in Lebanon and throughout my service were with me. Of course they were my trauma. And I had the joy and the challenge of meeting my wife in 1991, who was a very strong supporter of the PLO. She's Jewish, but she also was very, very adamant that Israel had committed horrible crimes. And at the time when we were first trying to get to know each other a bit more, every time something came on the television to do with Israel and Palestine, especially during the first and then second Intifada, the second Intifada particularly, because we were together during the first one, I would have to sit there and go, hello, welcome. No, but you don't understand, it's two sides, not simple as that. It's not just the Israelis not doing this for no reason, there's good reason for what they're doing, and I would stand behind that lie that I was taught, that it's not so simple. Until 2006, really, 2004, I was pretty blind to what was real there. And I kind of kept on trying to search for a way to engage within myself with the potential of protesting against any of this. Until it took me to get onto a personal development workshop in which I was invited to do a fire walk in ceremony. Has anybody done a fire welcome ceremony? Come on, hands up. Please, somebody. In fire walking ceremonies, you're invited to set your intention for your life. And I was kind of ready for something. And I had, in this thing with my partner, I experienced a bit of conflict in my relationship, therefore conflict inside myself. So as I was thinking about my intention before I walked on the fire, it's a good thing to think about it before, I came up with, I want to end the conflict inside myself, to end the conflict with my partner, and to end the conflict for my people and for the Palestinian people. And as I was walking up and down this fire, very quickly, I shouted these intentions, and I shouted them very loud. Not because of the pain, I just shouted them very loud to kind of express them. The following morning, a fellow fire walker, an Irish woman who runs a conflict resolution course, came over to me and said, here's an email address of a guy called Chen, who you saw speaking on the video that I got. He's just run a workshop for me in Ireland about theatre of the oppressed. I think you should write to him. Now, it's only latterly I know this, but I wrote him a long email telling him about the fire walking and telling him about meeting Doreen, who's the Irish woman. And he now tells me, not now, but recently he told me, I was kind of like, who is this guy? Because I told him the whole of my story and how I come to contact him. And he kind of said, yeah, when you come to Israel, contact me. So I was in Israel 3 months later and I did contact him. Then he started to introduce me to Combatants for Peace and to the work that they were already doing for the last 2 years by then. And slowly I got involved. And I think what I didn't say before when I was introducing Combatants for Peace was that we're involved in a binational joint struggle against the occupation. And I say struggle knowingly and meaningfully. It's not a simple process. It's not a simple process where we meet and we go, okay, how are we going to end the occupation? I'll tell you what, we'll just go there. It's not as simple as that. It's much more complex than that. It's hard work. And that's part of what I discovered that went on. And I've been involved since 2007, properly involved. I have learned so much about the whole construct of enemy at all, the whole construct that is imposed upon us that we have one at all. And I know there are wars, and I know that people are affected deeply by violence about conflict, as has been shown beautifully by your work. And I'm not denying any of that happens. And I do think somewhere that I discovered inside myself that the sense of dislodging this notion that I have an enemy has been the main transformation for me to decide to not be in the cycle of violence and to try and work non-violently together with this person or these people who call me enemy to try and find a resolution which could be sustainable and doable. And I think that that's the work that we do in Combatants for Peace. So thank you.
Wrap up at 9:30, is that okay? It's 20 minutes, and if people want to carry on talking afterwards, there are hostelries and there are places where other drinks can be had and the conversation can continue. But if we give ourselves best part of 20 minutes now, that's
do you want us to stay here?
I think it's probably a good idea. Do you want to go? Would you mind joining me?
Yes.
One more chat.
That's one idea on the board.
So, questions? Sir?
Asking in relation to the Combatants for Peace, we're talking about occupation. As you pointed out, there were really two occupations. You were in one process of going into Lebanon. There's the more normal, if you like, one of the occupied territories. Does it mean that your group actually takes a political view that the 1967 borders are the borders to, and if Israelis are outside those borders, then they're in occupation?
Yes. I'll expand a bit, maybe. Yes. And there's two bits here. There's Ben and there's Combatants for Peace. But essentially our line is that ending the occupation means returning the land to Palestinians in relationship to the borders of 67, which means solving the settlement problem, taking down the wall and having an establishment of the Palestinian state alongside the state of Israel